Hey guys, Mitko here from DN Models. Today we're taking a closer look at one of the Tiran 4s from MiniArt in 35th scale, this time a late type Sharir. This review will be somewhat different for several reasons. I decided that it's gonna be somewhat annoying if I make another basic review of the Tiran 4, and I plan to review all the models of the IDF tank that MiniArt are going to release. However, since they are pretty close one to another, the minor differences won't justify another 20 minutes long review featuring 95% of the same items that the other boxes have. Another reason is that I really would like to deviate from the standard review practice that I have and make a somewhat like a podcast, although not exactly. By that I mean I would like to share my thoughts and feelings about the kit, but not in the manner that I did so before. I will use stills pretty much like in my Lancaster video and will talk about the heights and the lows of the kit, about my impressions and opinions about it, and I will lay a basis for a future conversation with you. Now, whoever wants to see the basic review of the Tiran from MiniArt, a couple of those can be found on this channel. There you will find my obvious review with all the standard layouts of the kit contents. Today we're going a different road though. Now, let's start with some thoughts about the boxing. MiniArt standard boxings are very neat in general. They have their downsides and of course they are not perfect, but all in all their quality is great. The box is about 4 inches thick and on the sides we have an orange color which makes it very distinctive compared to the competition. The box art is usually two types. The one that we have on the Sharir Late is the one that you can find on the kits which feature interior. The box art is a complete picture with background and everything. The other type is in case there is no interior in the set. This concerns only kits that feature the two options, of course, with and without interior. So the second type is pretty much the same tank picture, but lacking the painted background and instead placed on a white background, which makes the box a little incomplete. That is, if you are a huge fan of any box art, which most of us are. So this is the first option with interior and with full box art, and on top of that we have one of the best Tiran series box arts with this specific release being kit number 37013. The focus on the picture is on the back of the turret and the back of the tank too. The most distinctive feature of the Tiran series are the stowage boxes that the Israelis put on those tanks, and here you have that poking you in the eye, leaving no choice for that beast to be mistaken for anything else but Tiran. Very nice indeed. Clearly the forest of antennas and machine guns can be seen, another typical for the IDF feature. So far, so good. Opening the box we can find a huge envelope inside of it holding most of the sprues and an additional one holding smaller sprues in order to combine them size-wise. They are placed one in another. I know this is considered a letdown, but thinking about how many sprues there are inside, separate bags are not an option here. It is not economically viable nor environment friendly for that matter. It is known fact that rubbing the sprues one into another and crowding them might create some troubles in terms of cracks on the tiny and fragile parts and scratches on the flat surfaces. However, having so many of them makes it impossible for a combination different than the one we have here. A price to pay for all the details and the number of parts, of course. So, boxing of the kit is very good but not perfect. The box lid could have been made from stiffer material, and the box itself could have been slightly bigger. Obviously, the backs are not enough, but this is it. Saying that, I must admit that I trust that MiniArt did their best to make their packing very good and in the same time providing all that can be found inside of that kit, and most importantly, at that price. With the instructions, we have a nice booklet close to A4 or a letter format, with the outside pages being glossy and the inner ones with lower quality and only black and white. Again, in this case, everything is done logically, and one shouldn't complain about the variable quality of the paper. The information that the sheet brings would be the same even if we printed it on a golden paper, so it wouldn't matter in the end. The building steps lack written description for most of their part. On one hand, that is great because overcrowding them would make the build a burden considering the number of parts and sub-assemblies. On the other hand, the kit is oriented mostly toward professional or at least advanced modelers, both of which does not need any text to tell them how to do their build. They already know from experience. It is great, but the other side of the thing here is that this kit would be troublesome for inexperienced modelers. Actually, in my honest opinion, this kit is an impossible build for inexperienced modelers, but we'll get back to that later on in the video or podcast. Whatever. Another thing that I would improve on those instructions is the information about the tank in historical terms. First, MiniArt are famous for making rare and obscure subjects, and that is what their popularity comes from. Second, I can hardly remember a company that sells a kit that's missing some sort of description about the real thing. It might be short, but it is there. Those two facts are reason enough, at least for me, to ask MiniArt, please improve on that intro. Maybe even adding a booklet with historical facts, a separate one, like other companies do, even if that might cost a few extra bucks on the price tag. Tiran 4 is a tank that looks great, however, if you are not into IDF stuff and you got it just for the looks, then you are doomed to struggle finding any decent historical info about that specific T-54 version. With that said, those are the only things that the instruction sheet can be improved on, at least from my experience and my opinion. The rest is pretty great. Now let's see the plastic. About the plastic, I mentioned that several times and I will do it once here again, but MiniArt are using Western European supplier for their plastic material, and that is for a couple of years already, which improved the quality of their kits significantly. Before, they were famous for cracks, breakages and whatnot, and with all those small parts that their kits feature, it was a nightmare. Now they switched from the old material provider, which I believe was something from Russia, to a new one from Western Europe, and things have changed significantly. This kit is with interior, and this is vital for the successful completion of it and the safety of your nerves and health. One thing is that the build itself, even with the perfect plastic, will be challenging even for the masters. That is the way the kit is engineered. Another is that there are so many lines and small parts, links and sub-assemblies that your patience will be tested to some great extent while building this tank. From the look of it, both the instructions and the completed kit pictures in MiniArt's site, one can tell that every detail was treated with devotion and respect. The thing is that this comes at a price. There is photo-etched parts here and there, and all those stunning details are your job, so it will depend on your skill and attention. You have the pieces, but it's not complete, so you gotta work to achieve it. This allows for great many small damages though, which are typical for a battle tank and especially in that climate. So it is a good thing to have so many small parts. With the quality demonstrated here, you can bet that out of the box, the kit is sufficient enough to be completed as a perfect copy of the real thing. All that again comes at a price which not everybody are willing to pay, or even if they are, they might not have the experience or, even worse, the skill set. So yeah, that gives you pretty much a basic idea what are you getting involved with. In my other review of the Tirans from MiniArt, you can see most of the sprues one by one, but here I will show only parts that impressed and surprised me. Not in this particular tank, but in the series overall. The quality of everything is great from texture to detail and back, but the best thing about everything is the element's thickness. It is true that Photo-etched entered into the scale modeling with the promise that it will fill the gap that the regular plastic cannot, especially in the terms of thickness, thinness, meshes, and so on. Well, MiniArt took that to another level with their production and raised the bar more or less, mostly based on the material thickness and detail embedded. Huge companies like Tamiya, for example, are still making their toolings the old way, chunky and somewhat ugly. There you have to send some of the plastic or even worse, exchange it for photo etch. Not here, not with MiniArt stuff. That makes the kit more fragile in general, and in this specific case, with the interior it is only scarier because in order to show off you have to remove parts which are again thin and fragile. But as mentioned above, this is the price for perfection. This is the time to get back to what I said about this kit and is being an impossible build for beginners. It might be an option for some, but I can bet you that 9 out of 10 will dump it in the bin due to the nervous breakdown on the first week of building. Even the version without interior will be troublesome for many. But I think you can see why. And the thing is, there is no way around that. About the decals, and let me start with the decals section, with the fact that IDF vehicles were quite often battlefield painted out in the open with whatever means soldiers had at hand. No stencils nor nothing. That is of course not 100% of the time rule, but still. The decals here are only an option for those who don't want to do it with stencils or by hand. Great one too. The sheet is bluish in appearance and is made by an Ukrainian company, and the most important thing is not which, but the fact that there is no complaints about the quality of the decals. They do represent some challenges when it comes down to realistic weathering, but with some of the items and their small size there is no way around those. I am not the biggest fan of decals. I would always pick a hand painting or a mask painting, as you might have guessed already, but all in all they look good, and I trust that they will work just fine. Maybe the smallest number will be the ones that I might use, but on the other hand, I can always damage the area or weather it, put some dirt, mud, sand, whatever to hide it, and not use the decal. However, enough for the decals. The photo etch here things are a lot more interesting compared to any regular kit. The sheet containing the photo etch elements is decent in size and features a lot of small pieces that go all over this Tiran for Sharir late. Those include engine grill meshes, straps for the basket and jerry cans, some turret and machine gun elements, and many small brackets which can be found at various places all over the tank. This too requires certain amount of experience and plenty of patience, plus the proper tools for PE penning. MiniArt's photo etch is the thinnest that I've seen on a kit, which creates additional challenge for the modeler, but in the end I can assure you that it will well worth the effort. Some of the straps, of course, can be exchanged for scratch-built ones, but I would stick to what's included in the kit because MiniArt put some decent effort in that and it should be respected, at least from my perspective. Well, maybe not if you hate Photo-etched, but even if you do, you cannot go around some of those parts even if you wanted to. Meshes of the engine deck are unavoidable. Overall impression that I have is that this is a masterpiece of a kit. It is at an extremely high level in any terms. I love Tamiya, but I have to warn you, if you have built Tamiya all your life, this kit will be something new completely. It is simply at a different level and it is just like comparing high school soccer team to a World Cup finals. I hate soccer by the way, but you get my point. The kit is extremely detailed and extremely complex as a follow-up to the first thing mentioned. You can add some things to it, like metal gun barrel for the 105mm Sharir, as well as some metal machine gun barrels, which will spice up things even more. But it doesn't beg for those. They're not a necessity. It is perfectly good out of the box, and in my opinion, it is priced well below its value in general. Why is that, you might ask? Well, consider buying Tamiya T55 and adding tracks, photo-etched, resin baskets and so on in order to achieve something similar. Draw the line below all of that and you will see that there is a lot more to be spent compared to MiniArt's out-of-the-box option offered here. I have to give it to Tacom for their effort in that same area, but in all my honesty, they are few steps behind in more than one segment of model making compared to MiniArt. Again, whole different level with this kit. So my conclusion is that this kit has a great value. It is priced below what it should be and I can happily embrace its downsides like too much complexity, not perfectly packing, and lack of history on the instructions. Not a bad price to pay to get the best of the best in 35th scale when it comes down to T-series of tanks. So that was it. I hope you enjoyed this video. It is not a video per se, it was meant to be more like a podcast, but it's not that either. So I honestly enjoyed doing that and a lot more than the regular videos that I usually make because here you can hear me blabber about the kit in the way that I really think it will be helpful and informative. The rest is more stiff. Maybe that's the proper word. I don't know. If you didn't like it, well, take a look at my other Tiran reviews. They are done in the old-fashioned way, and you will get enough information to decide should you get one of these kits or not. I would love to see your comments and suggestions, and hope that you liked the video/podcast as much as I did. Thanks for staying with me, and I will see you in the next one. And by the way, for those who don't know, Sharir is the name of the gun that was originally British and then Israelis modified it a bit and embedded in the Tiran 4 alongside with many other small but useful features. Just for information.